Hey, how's going everybody? Bert Brian here, and in today's video we're going to be cooking up a batch of some homemade dog food that even the pickiest of dogs will love. So, let's start the show. Our dog is a 3.5-year-old white pit bull, and one thing I didn't know about white pit bulls, or just white dogs in general, is that they tend to suffer from a lot of allergies. And I think white pit bulls can develop a lot of missing spots of fur. They can get red spots. You know, their skin is very sensitive. They have a very pink, soft skin. So being out in the sun can burn them easily. In some cases, they have a lot of allergies just to standard grass rubbing into it. So over the last, 3.5 years that we've had this dog, I've tried to get him on a healthy diet. I tried everything from, the most expensive foods that were out there on as far as already pre-made wet foods and dry foods as well. I've tried the cheapest, everything in the gambit from cheap to expensive to kind of random, things that you might buy off of an ad you see on Facebook. Nothing seemed to stick with him. He would eat it for 2 days and then he'd go on this hunger strike. And I swear I've never seen a dog starve themselves to where they would, throw up bile because they just didn't want to eat what you put down. And it was so encouraging. I felt so good when he would eat some food and then 2 days later he would just stop and he wouldn't ever want to eat that food again. So this recipe I'm going to share with you has been in the works for a very long time. It actually started with a smaller batch version that our veterinarian gave us. There were some things that this one was designed more for a really small dog, like a 12-pound dog. My dog's 55 to 60 pounds. So what I wanted to do was design a recipe that I didn't have to cook all the time. So I'm usually getting anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks out of one batch of food, which is awesome for me. I only have to cook for my dog maybe 13 times a year, and he always has fresh homemade stuff. And since we started eating this, or feeding him this, he has just totally changed. We also have one other ingredient that we add that I'll talk about later on in the process that's just added those extra nutrients that he's not getting. But we do a combination of this wet food. It's a half cup of this, a half cup of dry food 2 times a day. So he's getting 2 cups of food. Again, that's per the recommendation of his weight. He is in incredibly good shape, the leanest, healthiest, happiest dog. But anyway, let's jump right to what's in this recipe. We've got 4 to 5 pounds of boneless chuck tender roast, 2 pounds of chicken livers, 22 ounces of broccoli florets, 12 ounces of chopped spinach, 24 ounces of sweet potatoes, 28 ounces mixed vegetables. This one has peas, carrots, green beans, and corn, 1 32-ounce bag of brown rice, 2 tablespoons of ground ginger, 2 tablespoons of ground turmeric. So before you give me a hard time about not having raw, fresh vegetables, I know that's the standard. That's what a lot of people would like, but I personally don't see a big deal with using the flash frozen foods. I think these work out just fine. They're handy for me and my schedule, and he has no problems with it. And according to our vet, he's in immaculate shape. He's doing wonderful. So it's fine. You can use real stuff like not frozen, raw, or you can use frozen. Either is just fine. Once you get all of your ingredients gathered, all you need is a big crock pot. I've got this 8-quart crock pot. We're going to load it up, put all of the stuff in there. And then it's just a matter of waiting for anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, and then we'll show you what we do with the food then. Alexa, set a timer for 7 hours. Cooking rice is super easy. For this recipe, we're going to use Mahatma brown rice. And if you follow the instructions on the back, we've got 10 cups of water, which is going to result in 5 dry cups of rice, giving us 20 servings of rice, roughly, once it's all cooked. I'm not going to show you how to do this. Cooking rice is cooking rice. So the 7-hour timer went off, and I let this sit and warm for about 30 minutes or so. So what we're going to do is take the lid off of this. We're going to check to make sure that the meat that we have down in here is nice and tender. You can see I did add a little bit of water to this. I added 2 cups actually, but for the most part, you really don't need to add a lot of water when you're using frozen vegetables, just because they're going to end up having some water content. You can see where our chicken livers have just really fallen apart. And part of the reason what we're doing with checking the meat now, making sure that it's really tender, is provided it's tender enough, we're going to use a blender to make sure that we will mix all of the vegetables and the meat and the juice all together and create one big slurry that will be mixed with the rice when it's finished. One word of warning, you want to try to avoid getting any of the juice from this on your countertops or any of the vegetables. Don't let it fall off your cutting board onto the countertop. The turmeric that's in here will stain your countertops yellow, and sometimes it can be really difficult to kind of scrub it off, especially if you let it sit for too long. So really try to make sure you don't get any of this stuff anywhere. So what we're going to do right now is just going to cut into this a little bit, see how we did on the cook. As you can see, it's still really tender for the most part. It looks like it's still nice and tender. You know, it'll just peel apart pretty easily. And once I get it cut up into little pieces, this should blend up in my Ninja blender pretty well, especially with all the juice and the vegetables mixed. And of course, I got to give my little man samples. Oh, I think he approves. Good boy, Link. So now that all the meat is cut up, we're going to go through this process using my Ninja blender here. And this is a dedicated one just for dog food. I have another one for other purposes. And we're just going to kind of layer and do little bits of the vegetable and juice mixture with little bits of the beef. I'm not going to show you the blender going for the entire time. We all know what blenders do. They go vroom, vroom, and the stuff blends all up. So we'll skip through all this process and jump to the next step. All right, so now that we got the vegetable and beef sludge complete and a whole pile of dishes over here, we're gonna let this sit and cool while we get the rice cooking, and at the end, we're gonna combine everything together. So let's jump to the next step. All right, folks, next step's real simple. We've got our cooked rice, we've got vegetable and beef sludge. Now we're gonna mix the two together, and looks like somebody's ready for food. Good boy. So to make my portions, I have a ½ cup scoop, and I just use a standard spatula here. Get a nice mixture together and really press down so that you make sure you get a full ½ cup, since we're trying to be precise in the amount of food that we give the dog. Then we use these plastic containers with little plastic lids. I think I ended up spending maybe $27, $28 on 50 of them. And you can fit 3 ½ cup portions per container. And all you gotta do is gently tap and you'll end up getting your nice portion. Thankfully, the consistency on these came out perfect. If it ends up being too dry anywhere in the process, you can always add a little bit of water to make sure that it's sticking together properly and not going to be overly runny or too thick. So we have a total of 16 containers, each containing 3 servings. So we have 60 servings here, plus 2 here, one for tonight, one for the morning. So that gives us over 30 days worth of food with just one batch. So it just happens to be Link's dinner time as we're finishing up our prep for the month. And one thing that we do like to add to his food, we've picked up this Dinovite. I gotta say, this stuff is like magic powder. It's what we call it, a magic powder. It really has changed the way our dog feels. I mean, seriously, he had this Dorito smell, probably from yeast buildup. His paws would always smell. In general, he just kind of had a bit of a smell. His fur, his coat wasn't very smooth or soft. He had little spots missing. Ever since we started giving him this, all of that stuff went away. He smells great. There's no odor anymore in his paws. His coat just stays nice, clean, good smelling, and very soft and smooth for an incredibly long time. Any of the little skin patches that he had, missing fur patches, are all healed in. So honestly, this stuff, truly amazing. Let's talk about the cost of making your own food versus buying the pre-made cans of wet food from the grocery store. So all of the ingredients that we had together to make our wet food here today, it was $65 roughly for the beef, the veggies, all that. Now you can save a good bit when you catch the sales they have on frozen vegetables, where you can get sometimes buy one, get one, or you can get 2 for $5. So those can really lower the cost overall. We also use a bag of dog food that's the Diamond Naturals. It's $40. It ends up lasting us 3 months. So we get $15 roughly a month is what the dry food portion is costing. And then we have the Dinovite, which gives him all of those probiotics and a lot of good vitamins that he might be missing throughout the food that we're making. So that's another $40. Altogether, it ends up costing about $120 a month to feed him. And again, if we catch some sales, it's close to $100. So $100 a month to feed your dog who's a 55, 60 pound dog. That's really not that bad. With my dog food recipe, you get 248 ounces of wet food. And if you try to get the equivalent of that from pre-made canned wet food at the grocery store, I picked the cheapest one you could find. So as a comparison, to go for the cheapest route possible, it was $2.09 per can. It ended up coming to $39.90 a month just using the cheapest quality wet food you could get. And then I also said, well, I'll pick the cheapest dry food I can. That was also a 40-pound bag. That came to $9.30 added onto your total. So you're at roughly $50 right now. So $50 a month for the lowest quality you could feed your dog. If you were going to go that route, I would recommend the Dinovite to give him those nutrients, or her the nutrients that they're missing from the low quality food. And so you're now at $90. So going the cheapest route you possibly can with probably the worst ingredients that your dog's probably not going to like, and it's not going to help them with their health, their overall health, gut health, and digestion, and especially if they're a dog that has allergies like mine, it's not going to do anything good for them. Or you could go a little more expensive and spend some time yourself making your dog good quality food, and he's going to love it. They're going to love what you give them. And of course, maybe every dog is different. The taste might not be right aligned with mine, but you can always swap out different ingredients. You could use turkey instead of beef sometimes if you wanted. You could add chicken instead. There's all sorts of adaptations you could make this. Some people could add fish. There's a lot of different ways you could go. But I know this works for my dog, and I know I want my dog to live and be with me and be part of our lives as long as we possibly can. And so I feel like giving him this food, he's just a totally different person. He's amazing, and I think it's going to help him live much longer. There are also fad diets that are out there. You can buy these things, and I mentioned earlier about, you might see an ad on Facebook for a certain type of food. In particular, I'm talking about something like Farmer's Dog, where they promise you, fresh food right off of a farmer's table. You've got your vegetables and fresh beef and all of that stuff right there, harvested straight from the field to the table. But if you look at the cost for that stuff, it's just really not at all cost effective, especially if you have a dog like mine. So when I looked at the scale and I looked at the different sizes dogs, and it's kind of on a weight basis on how many meals you would want. If you're feeding your dog like mine 2 times a day, they're getting 1 cup a meal. It would be $9 roughly. That's at the lower end scale for a dog that weighs 55, 60 pounds. It's a guess about $9 a day. And if you do 31 days out of the month, the exact comparison of the amount of food that I got out of my portion, you're going to spend over $279. It's just not worth it to pay that kind of money. And I don't care how great the quality is of the ingredients. You can get those same ingredients and do it at home, just like this recipe is promoting. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure and give it a big thumbs up. If you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. If you do give this recipe a try, please leave it a comment down below. I'd love to hear what your pup thinks of this concoction. Again, I know it's been perfect for us. I love the ease and convenience. It's just been amazing too for what it's done for his overall gut health and just health in general. So anyway, thank you again, everyone. Hope you all have a great day. And as always, stay toasty, my friends. We'll see you in the next video.